Tourism special meeting. It's Wednesday, May 27th. Oh, it's my son Danny's birthday. Yes. And we will not be joined by, I'm Councilmember Hahn. I chair this committee. We will not be joined by Councilmember Rosendahl this morning. Apparently has a better offer with the governor this morning in his district, so he's there. And we are expecting Councilmember Tom LaBonge in about 15 minutes, but we'll go ahead and take item 1. Apparently item 2 we're going to continue, so we'll take item 1 and then we'll go to item 3, which I think most people are here for. If you would like to address this committee, please fill out a speaker card and bring it forward, and we'll take your comments at the appropriate time. Yes, item 1.
Under item 1, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for council approval the award of a contract with Walsh Austin award of contract to Walsh Austin Joint Venture to serve as construction manager at risk for pre-construction services for the project Bradley West Gates at Los Angeles International Airport. This would be for a term of 1 year for pre-construction services, and allows also at LAWA's option for a potential term of an additional 5 years for the construction period. The department has chosen to propose the use of a construction manager at risk as a means of expediting completion of this project by the year 2012. The city administrative officer has submitted a report and recommendation for approval of this contract.
Good morning, Councilwoman Hahn. I'm Intisar Durham, the Chief Airports Engineer, here to address any questions that you may have. Obviously, we're thrilled to bring this contract forward. We are very excited to get Walsh Austin under contract so that we are able to start the pre-design services, and hopefully, once the EIR is completed by around the end of this year, to start construction soon thereafter.
Here's what I want to know. This construction manager at risk.
Yes.
How I know that we approved, this committee approved the ordinance for last fall.
Yes.
So help me understand how this model will assist in bringing our Bradley West project on time and on budget.
Using using a construction manager at risk, it's truly bringing in a contractor at the times that we are in the design stage. They are here to assist, put the design packages together, to put the procurement packages together also as soon as the design for a package is complete. They are here to assist us put it out on the street for bid and hopefully get a subcontractor on board as soon as possible. They are available to do value engineering, which would greatly help the cost of the project. So again, they were selected based not only on a fee, on a construction manager at risk fee, but also on their qualifications, on their ability or demonstrated ability to deliver projects using construction manager at risk, because it's a new method for us at the City of Los Angeles, and it's not a commonly used procurement mechanism. We are hoping, again, bringing this contractor on board as soon as possible, that we would be able to deliver the project on time and within budget.
Did any of the other large airports that were completed recently, did they use this model, like Denver?
Not Denver, but there are several airports that have used or are currently using this method. There are some public agents, some big agencies, not necessarily public agencies, that use this mechanism. So again, we are looking forward to this partnership with this contractor and our design.
Okay, well, and then obviously last year we also did the Dim Jim Fentress Hatchmont McDonald project management team.
Yes.
So tell me how they would work with this new construction manager at risk.
It is completely, we are hoping to have a truly an integrated management team. The DIMGIM team provides overall program management for the implementation of all of LEX development projects. Walsh Austin, as a contractor working on the concourses on Bradley West, will be working closely with our with DIMGIM as a program manager. Fentress is obviously critical. They are working very hard at completing the design. They will be working hand in hand with Walsh Austin to develop the procurement packages, and as soon as the plans are complete, to put them out for bid. So Hatchmont McDonald is another firm that we awarded a contract to last year to do all of the civil design work. And again, they will be working with this contractor as well as others in order to put the packages out and to get the contracts underway as soon as possible.
And are we going to have project labor agreements in these contracts?
Yes. Yes.
Right answer. That was the right answer.
Yes.
And how many large aircraft gates will we have by January 2012?
I believe that's the north concourses. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Okay. Exactly the number.
Okay. And what's the status of the EIR for this project?
We are on track to complete the EIR by December, right before Christmas of this year. It is out for public comments at this time.
And do you have an answer on the midfield concourse, when you think that will be completed?
We'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, get back to me on that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to approve this. It sounds like it's the new wave of the model that, will. So you've got a great team here. It sounds like it's a great model, project labor agreements. Mm-hmm. You got a good project management team, and now you have this construction manager at risk model. So no reason why we can't move ahead and really modernize this airport, as you know, which is a big priority for me, and I think really for our whole city council. Even in these tough economic times, we have not backed down one bit from moving forward with, modernizing this airport, creating good-paying jobs, and we hope when the economy picks back up, we'll have the kind of international first-class airport that will continue to attract the airline industry and tourists so that we can get this economy back going. So you got the perfect model. Sounds like we're ready to approve it. So get this built.
Thank you.
I was delayed.
Welcome, Mr. Tomahon.
To this meeting. I apologize.
Thank you.
But I want to say I support the concept greatly, and I think the experience that people have at an airport or traveling anywhere is safe, number one, and then the feeling of that it's a special place to get through. I know we have a different world with the security challenges, but to make it special so that we don't end up on, who wrote that magazine that said we were on 25th or something out of the world?
Dwell.
Yeah.
Dwell. Where's Dwell published? In Los Angeles? All right, so we want to make sure we pass the Dwell test. And
but
not,
you know what? They had a point.
Right.
We're a dilapidated airport with antiquated terminals, and they actually assessed it correctly, but it gives us more impetus to get going and build a first-class airport.
We're excited to get started. Can't wait.
I'm excited. Well, thank you very much. You got my support, Ms. Hahn. Thank you for your leadership. I know Mr. Rosendahl is not here, but his leadership all of us really wanted to see this happen. I remember 1961, your daddy probably took you to the new international terminal, and that's the last time, you were barely born. All right, enough said. Okay.
Who laughed back there? Okay, so we'll approve that item.
Thank you.
And we're
add a Gina Marie for me.
We're continuing item 2.
Right.
So now we'll go to item 3.
Under item 3, pursuant to motion Han Weezar adopted by council on May 12th to assert jurisdiction over the Board of Harbor Commissioners' action on April 29 to approve the Port Master Plan Amendment number 24, which would establish a plan for the disposal of sediment material as part of completion of the main channel deepening project at the Port of Los Angeles. This matter has now been referred for your consideration.
Okay, and when staff want to come to the table, Mike Christensen, the Colonel, Geraldine Lopez Mendoza, Wally Knox, who still has a job so far. Let me just set this up. We're here today because I introduced a motion to assert jurisdiction over the Port Master Plan Amendment, which is related to the Channel Deepening Project, which I want to be very clear about to everybody. I support this project, the Channel Deepening Project. I know how important it is, particularly in these times, to have the kind of international gateway that can accommodate large ships, support commerce, create jobs at the Port of Los Angeles. So dredging the main channel is very important, and I realize that it's been on hold for 5 years through no fault of this committee. But before this committee, we have also, just to let everybody know, we have 2 appeals pending on the EIR of the Channel Deepening Project, which we'll touch upon, but it is not before us today. And I don't want us to stray too much off the topic of what's before us today. We're going to be holding a hearing in the future on those 2 appeals because they do come to the City Council and they come to this committee. So we're here to talk about the Master Plan Amendment, which does 2 things. One, it designates other as the use of the land that you will be creating out of this dredge material, and because it designates the Southwest Marine Terminal as the spot to dump this dirt that you will be dredging. So those are the 2 amendments to the master plan. Is that pretty much accurate? Right.
Yes.
So we, I think part of why I did it was because we have the authority to bring a decision by a commission here when we have questions, when we want clarification, when we would like to drill down a little bit more on the decision and the actions. That's our prerogative. And there have been concerns raised about, not about the channel deepening. Everybody wants that. Everybody's on support with that. We got labor here. We got business here. We got, everyone agreeing that we need to deepen that channel. What became a bit of an issue was that it seems like it's a shame to, use this site, the Southwest Marine Terminal, as a dumping ground, which would further preclude a use such as a shipyard, which is one of the ideas for the Port of Los Angeles, is to create a shipyard. There's no other, this is one of the only large ports that does not have a ship repair and building facility. When ships need repair or building, they got to go down to San Diego. So the idea, when we lost Todd Shipyard 15 years ago, there's been kind of a movement to try to bring back a shipyard at the country's largest, America's port. So the thought was, is there something we can talk about? Is there more questions we can get clarification on why this seems to be the only viable spot to dump 80,000 cubic yards of toxic material? So that's kind of some of the setting it up, and we'll ask some of those questions. So did you want to give us
Yes.
a presentation? Or
Thank you, Chairperson Hahn. Mike Christensen, Deputy Executive Director of the Port of Los Angeles. Just a few comments leading in, and then I'd like to suggest we hear from our federal partners, given this is a federal project. Councilwoman, as you had correctly noted, this particular item deals with a Port Master Plan Amendment, which would allow the port to dispose of a certain amount of dredge material in the slips at Southwest Marine. This is basically coming at the tail end of a very long process. The most current process is around 5 years. The total process really started 13 years ago. So
because your current master plan talks about dredging the main channel, but it doesn't designate this location to dump the dirt, because you had not identified sites, or
In my experience in harbor dredging, the number one challenge on any harbor dredging project is always the disposal. Where do
Right.
you put the material?
Right.
And the work that's been done thus far on the Channel Deepening project basically ran out of dredged material disposal sites. So what happened about 5 years ago was we needed to, and as the local partner with the federal government, it's our responsibility to find those sites.
Right.
So the most recent effort has been exhaustive. It started out with 13 different alternatives
Right.
and ended up with this as the least environmentally damaging practical alternative.
Right.
So for us to frame the importance of this master plan amendment, in order for us to move the project forward, we need to go with this least environmentally damaging
Right.
practical alternative.
And for the
or-
project to go forward, you have to designate a site
That's
to
right.
dump the dirt.
Or go back to the drawing board.
Right.
So from our position as staff of the Harbor Department, if we don't go forward with this particular alternative, we're back to the drawing board, which leaves us with, at best, several years' delay on moving the Channel Deepening project forward, and at worst, whether we could even move the project forward. I think at this point it would be important for this committee to hear from really the federal sponsor. Channel Deepening is under the jurisdiction of the federal government. This is a federal project, and Colonel Magnus from the Corps of Engineers, who heads up the LA region, has the responsibility and jurisdiction over this, and I'd like to.
Can I just,
ask him to-
before we get to the colonel, can I ask you, what's the total amount of material that remains to be dredged?
Got about 2 million cubic yards, I believe.
3 million.
3 million cubic yards.
3 million.
Of which about 80,000 is toxic. And I think it's all important to note that the slips, Southwest Marine slips as they exist, are significantly toxic in their sediment, and we're actually under a Regional Water Quality Control Board order to deal with that as it exists now.
So one of the things that, let me just ask before we get to the colonel, we were looking at the EIR, and it's not really, it doesn't say 3 million, it's 2.77. Is that,
Yeah,
so
rounded-
how, so
rounded-
so you rounded it up to 3 million?
Yes.
rounded to 3.
That's a lot rounding up. I mean, it's more than 80,000 that you have, that you're trying to find a place for.
Within a percentage round-off error, it could easily go above and below that 2.77.
You don't exactly know how much. Okay. And then just before the colonel, so 3 million, so where are each of the disposal sites and how much goes in each one?
Rather than try to tell you, let me hand this over to the committee members. There are 4 different sites for the disposal of the remaining material. About 128,000 cubic yards goes to what we call the northwest slip, which is near Trapac.
That's a nice board. You want to stand over there with your microphone and just tell us what we're doing?
Well,
I understand, but you can see that better than this from a whole
I
global.
don't know, I can see
thing.
this better, but,
All right.
I can use my gadget here.
Okay.
If I don't shoot Wally in the eye with it.
I know, really.
Northwest slip gets about 128,000 cubic yards.
Uh-huh.
The berths 243, 245 are what we're referring to as the Southwest Marine slip. Takes about 368,000 cubic yards, of which 80,000 are contaminated. We put about 1.7 million cubic yards in the shallow water habitat, which is in the outer harbor. And then about 804,000 cubic yards goes for ocean disposal.
And so
This-
what does that all add up to?
That would be that 2.77
The
million.
2.77.
So, and I think it's important to note that, again, this, and the Colonel can speak to this much better than I, but this is, and again, disposal is always the most challenging option in a
Right.
channel deepening
Right.
or dredging project.
Right.
This effort has been a a significant collaboration
Right.
with a lot of federal agencies,
Right.
any one of which has the ability to say no. To get everybody to yes has taken close to 5 years. So that's the concern we have at Harbor Department, is anything other than this least environmentally damaging practical alternative is going to go probably back to one of those agencies that's not going to want to go yes. And Councilwoman, one other comment that I wanted to comment to. The land use that's in the master plan amendment is other.
Right.
That's basically the broadest that we can come up
Right.
with. And we didn't want to preclude any options. Under that land use, it is possible for a shipyard to go in there.
Okay.
In fact, if you look at some of the historic photos of the area, you'll notice that there have been shipyards tied up in the vicinity with dry docks.
Right.
Certainly, that could happen here as well. Once we
So other does not preclude.
does not
ship-
preclude a shipyard. We would be glad to look at
Clarify,
that. In
yeah.
fact, that would may be appropriate to look at a shipyard going in there after the land is created and the toxic problems on the existing slips are dealt with.
Okay. Colonel.
Ma'am.
Very good.
Councilman,
Yes.
thank you. And this is a collaboration, and again, our piece of this is the disposal.
Right.
And we have gone through a very deliberate process to look at alternatives for where we could dispose of this material and have come up with this plan that you see in front of you. And that was after a detailed collaboration with dozens of federal and state environmental partners to look at what we looked at 13 different alternatives to arrive at this one.
Right.
And it's important that this one is currently classified as the least environmentally damaging practicable alternative. So if we were to consider other alternatives, they would not be the least environmentally damaging, nor are they likely to be practicable. And that practicability is as an assessment from an engineer and from the Corps, and then also from the port, and the practicability aspects of how does it fit within the master plan, is it affordable, and is this something that's feasible. At this point, we have put 4 years and $220 million into this project. And I won't belabor the point that we essentially have the underwater equivalent of a $220 million bridge to nowhere. This is not a functional project. And until we can complete the project, and we lack about that 30%, which is the rest of the federal channel and the berths, you can't operate at the 53-foot depth that this project is designed for. We do not have another disposal area. It is my assessment that if we cannot use this one, we are looking at a delay of at least 3 to 4 years. I believe it will take that long for us to find another alternative and get the buy-in from the environmental agencies who have already come to this process and said this is the one that is least environmentally damaging. So if we were to restart the clock, it's my assessment that it will take 3 to 4 years, and it will be about $5 million to restart our contractor, because we cannot keep the contractor we have there for 3 to 4 years, to restart that. And the labor and the engineering and the plans and specifications for a new process is likely to run about $5 million.
Let me ask you, like the 13 sites. It is kind of interesting. I mean, someone like me would say, gee, why did it take 5 years to find a site right in your own backyard? 13 sites. How long do you spend on each site before you realize it's not going to be acceptable? Or can't you just, or were certain ones just
Some of
took
them
a look
were-
at and went, that's not,
Yeah.
that's going to be not the least environmentally
Yes,
sound?
ma'am. That's right. And so of the 13, I think 8 of them were rejected
Right off
fairly
the
early
bat.
in the
Okay,
process.
so you got 5.
So we looked at 5, and then through some more detailed analysis, 3 remained. And of the 3, this is the one that was deemed the least environmentally damaging practical alternative, and that which conforms with the concerns of the environmental groups that participated in this process.
Right. And I know one of them was trucking this toxic material to Arizona or something. And why was that deemed inappropriate? Or
Yeah, perhaps Mike would talk to the cost, because all of the disposal costs are borne by the sponsor, which would be
Right.
the port. And at some point, the port has to intervene and say, this is not feasible for our
So it was
consideration.
feasible on every other level, but the cost?
There were two issues, Councilwoman, on the long-haul truck. One is the air emissions,
Okay.
based on whatever kind of transportation would be engaged. The other would be cost, and given that quantity and the toxicity of the material, locations it would go to, Arizona was one
Couldn't
of
we have
several.
designated clean trucks to truck that dirt as part of the proposal?
The problem with that is that that's way outside of our jurisdictional area, and that's it would likely be an interstate move, so that would take some federal action.
Seems like, though, again, you got all your agencies there. You got all of these environmental folks saying, we're going to dispose of it, but we want it to be in the most environmentally sound way. It seems to be everyone would say one of the things we could do is just to truck it with clean. I'm just asking.
No, I appreciate your line of thinking, and you're clearly headed in the direction that we all want to move. But at this point, I don't think there's an alternative available to
So you
use
bet-
clean
yeah.
trucks for that sort of
But
distance.
was that studied in that alternative?
It was, and the other issue. of
And the
course, is
cost, which was 100 times what it would take to dispose locally.
It could be, we don't have a firm cost, it could be well over $50 million worth of cost.
See, I was told 12 million.
12 million was the cost of moving just part of the material out of the slip.
Okay. But you never really it never got to that point, that alternative.
Only that it was an extremely high cost. It never got quantified.
Okay.
Ma'am, the other challenge we have is that the environmental groups push us towards beneficial reuse. And if we cannot use this slip to place even the clean material, you understand that there'll be 80,000 cubic yards of the contaminated
Right.
material, and then 368,000 on top
Clean.
of that. Most of that is clean.
Right.
If we don't put it there, it goes in the ocean, and that does not contribute to the beneficial
Do you
reuse.
put any of this into the ocean?
If you look on there, 804,000
Of clean goes into the ocean?
of clean, and that is, with all sincerity, where all the parties have drawn the line. It is our
Is that
belief.
804,000?
It is, yes, ma'am. And it is our belief that the EPA, among others, will not agree to anything that adds to that non-beneficial reuse and disposal in the ocean.
Because I would look at the 368,000 of clean that you're dumping at Southwest and figure that could at least maybe go into the ocean and leave only 80,000 of toxic that you're trying to deal with. Why would you why would some clean be okay and not more clean? I mean, if it's clean, it's clean.
Councilwoman, if what you're asking is why the clean at the Southwest Marine Slip?
Yeah.
It's because in order to encapsulate the dirty, there's a significant amount of clean that needs to go on top of it.
Okay,
Because
so you
we-
need you're taking clean dirt to encapsulate toxic dirt.
That's correct. That's a combined disposal confined disposal facility, which is environmentally preferred because it does not require removal. It does not, and it puts it in a safe configuration and allows just about any land use we need on top.
What kind of dirt are you dumping at Trapac? Clean, dirty, toxic?
In terms of the Northwest Slip,
At Trapac, yeah.
yes. I'd have to check on that, but my recollection is that's largely clean. That's not a combined
That's
disposal
clean.
facility.
Could toxic dirt go at Trapac?
No.
No.
Not under this action. We'd have to reanalyze it, and I'd say probably not.
We do not have a environmental document that would allow us to do that. And what I passed up to
Did
you
you
is
look
just
at that? Did you look at that alternative for your toxic dirt?
No,
Yeah,
we didn't.
We don't need like the audience mumbling.
that I do not believe that was evaluated for contaminated material.
It was not.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
And Councilwoman, one of the things there,
Ralph, you want to come on up? Ralph, come on up. You're our environmental expert. Come on up. Sit down.
okay, one of the things while Ralph is pulling a chair up,
And,
that
yeah.
I think it's important to note there's a lot of work that's been done on the balance of material and soil. For instance, the soil stockpile that's on the backlands of the China shipping terminal is clean, granular soil, and that is under the Channel Deepening project will go largely in the shallow water habitat. Absent the ability to move forward with the project, we can't move that material off China shipping. So all this material has been characterized, and we found what we thought was the best location for all of it.
Ralph.
To answer that question,
Identify yourself for the record.
I'm Ralph Appy. I'm the Director of Environmental Management for the Port of Los Angeles. The reason is it's the physical layout of that little sliver that goes up at the northwest slip by Tray Pack there. You ask if it could accommodate contaminants.
Right.
It can't, because the area you need to protect the contaminants from migrating through the dike wall is there's not enough space there. And so that site cannot be used for a CDF. It can't contain a CDF. It can't be designed properly.
You couldn't encapsulate it with clean dirt.
No, there's not enough room, the space you need, and that's one of the problems that it happens even at Southwest Marine with maybe only filling one of the slips, is that you don't have enough space to create the buffer you need so that contaminants don't get back out into the environment.
That was the point of the schematic that I passed up there, to just give you an understanding of what encapsulation to your left, what that encapsulation looks like in terms of the dike that we had put in place, the encapsulation of clean material around it and on top of it. You have to have space for that sort of action.
Okay. Explain to us again why you need a master plan amendment to move forward with the channel deepening, so we understand that.
Councilwoman, in order to the endpoint is permit, and to get there is a record of decision from the federal government to certify the environmental impact study or statement. In order to do that, there must be a determination, and Ralph helped me out on this, a determination of not coastal determination.
Yeah, consistency determination.
Consistency determination. And that's done by the Coastal Commission. Coastal Commission is going to want to see that we are consistent with the plan, and in order to do that, we have to make this amendment. If we don't do that, we don't get to a record of decision, we don't have a project.
Okay. Okay, you mentioned that the designation other does not preclude a shipyard, and I think that's kind of the interest here today is it seems a shame to destroy the last remaining water slips of this size for 8 acres of additional land space. Just seems a shame to a lot of people. It just seems like you're cutting off what could be a future good use, viable use. And you've even said you've looked at the possibility of a shipyard. Is there a way? Did you look at the possibility of containing this dirt in a way that did not remove the use of those slips?
We looked at.
You must admit, it seems a shame, and just on the surface, it seems a shame. We know we need to dredge the channel. We know we need to find a spot to dump it, but it does seem a shame to remove the last remaining operational water slips of this size just to dump the dirt. Can we do both?
Councilwoman, we looked at what would have to be done to clean up the contamination in the legacy contamination in those slips, and from a pure cost standpoint, it was questionable whether it would be prudent or even feasible to keep those as operating slips. Part of the answer to that question really lies in whether there is a market for additional shipyard. We do have, of course, an operating ship and boat repair facility, Al Larson, who's a tenant, customer of the port.
Who doesn't take large ship.
And we
right. I mean, he doesn't repair and build large ships.
Doesn't build ships. Repairs medium-sized ships, barges,
right.
and so forth.
Right.
Given that, of course, the Southwest Marine facility was a shipyard that went out of business for lack of a market to serve.
Right.
We would be glad to look at,
see
if there is another market out there. But at this point, those slips represented such a liability, and combined with the opportunity presented through the channel deepening and the need to economically and feasibly deal with the contamination, both in the slips and also in the remainder of the harbor, drove us to this as the least environmentally damaging practicable alternative.
Because there will be those who I think will speak today that will talk about good jobs, building and repairing ships, and that's something that we as America's Port should look at. I mean, there are those who I think will talk about, in time of war, or since 9/11, or if something were to happen there, in our area, where is the closest place that we could repair, major ships, which could keep commerce moving. I mean, you will hear that argument. So it does, it just feels a shame to dump dirt and preclude the possibility of this kind of use at America's Port. It seems short-sighted, is what I think you're going to hear. And how would you answer that?
And I can understand that, the concern, Councilwoman. Our position from Port staff is that the costs involved, not only of the delays to the channel deepening project, and in terms of jobs, there's a lot of jobs.
Right.
It could be over 7,000 jobs
Right.
at stake here.
But I didn't hear all these people screaming for the last 5 years, frankly. For 5 years you've been looking for a site, and I didn't get letters from, everybody screaming about the jobs that you've been holding up for 5 years looking for the site. So, I mean, it's important, but you have waited 5 years.
I can assure you, Councilwoman, the gentleman to my left has been pressing us very, very hard to move this along and get this disposal site. We've, as he mentioned, their contractors have been.
I mean, I just don't want to rush to this decision when, again, you're precluding a whole future use, for that argument, because you have been sitting on it for 5 years.
We believe, again, Councilwoman, that
And you ended up finding a site in your own backyard. So
that the use we're proposing for this site would permit a shipyard. If we could take a look at feasibility and
how would you create a shipyard if you fill the slips?
a dry dock facility, which is largely what was done there anyway, if you look at some of the historic use of that site. Repairs that can be done in water can be done at the wharf on the main channel, and repairs
You
that need to be
would
done
put the
right-
ship on the main channel.
main channel or in the
You would dock the ships on the main channel.
Yes. And there are other locations in the port we could be looking at also that wouldn't entail this huge cost of dealing with the contaminated sediment in another way. And we would love to work with your office to explore these.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Good morning, Council Member. Both myself, my name is Geraldine Lopez Mendoza. I'm the Vice President of the Commission. Beside me is Joe Radisich, who's also a member of the Commission. I think both of us are here this morning. Obviously, we approved this project, and so we have an interest in seeing it move forward. At the same time, we understand that you have significant questions about safety and security and long-term viability of the site at the port. Excuse me. In terms of the issue of why now, why the urgency now after 5 years, I mean, big picture, from my perspective, looking at it from the policy perspective and moving the port forward, we've been trying to do a number of things urgently to move forward at the Port of Los Angeles. As you know, when we got there in the fall of 2005, no EIRs had been moving forward for several years, and we had to revamp the entire EIR process. We actually had to help select the existing, now Executive Director, Geraldine Natz. Several members of her executive team weren't on the staff at that time, so we were playing catch-up for, I would say, the first year or so. Since that time, we've moved forward with the TRAPAC project, we've moved forward with China Shipping, we've moved forward with Pacific Marine and the oil. We've also moved forward with a number of waterfront projects, which I know are not coming as fast as you would like, but they're moving forward in terms of the buffer project in Wilmington and other projects with the Ports of Call and other things that are going to be coming to us soon. So I think in that regard, both the commission, the executive team, and our environmental and engineering staff have tried to work expeditiously to move forward on a number of fronts to satisfy our customers, our environmental stakeholders, our community stakeholders who want to see progress and want to see it as soon as possible. In terms of the big picture, in terms of why this site, and are we being short-sighted in terms of filling this particular spot? on the one hand, it's partly because we're thinking long term that this is coming up. We have to dredge the channel. We have to put the dirt somewhere. And I know it does seem a shame to look at why are we doing it here at this main channel. Based on all the analysis been done by folks who know a lot more than I do on these very technical issues, this is the best way to go. And as you know, if there was another environmentally better way to go, I would be advocating it even more strongly than they are. I think in light of everything we have to do, this is the best way to go. And long term, not short-sighted, but long term, we do have to consider what's going to happen on the main channel. You, of all folks, know what the big picture ideas are in terms of making it a tourist destination, making it attractive to the folks who visit, and figuring out what to do on the main channel directly across from ports of call is a long-term decision that we need to think about.
And how tall is that berm going to be?
It's going to be there temporarily. It's going to be about 20 feet high.
You're going to have a 20-foot berm of toxic dirt. That is
Temporarily.
really attractive to...
It's not going to be toxic.
it's
Remember,
gonna
it's the
be
clean.
Clean dirt.
It's the clean dirt on top of the dirty dirt.
That's attractive.
And it's to tamp it down so then it can become land that then we can do an EIR and figure out long-term and big picture, what are we going to do at that site? What's going to be most beneficial to the port? What's going to be most beneficial in terms of jobs, economic development, and so forth?
I think long-term, if you decide it's a shipyard, I think you've cut out that option by doing this.
I respectfully disagree.
Okay.
But we can respectfully disagree
Yeah.
and still at some point have a meeting of the minds.
Yes, that's what we're trying to get to. Okay.
Well, there was a bunch of different questions I'd like to respond to. I mean, the question here before us-
Could you identify yourself for the record?
Sorry, Councilwoman. Joe Radisich, a harbor commissioner and also international vice president of the ILWU. I really think you could be jeopardizing the future of this port. I mean, we have got to go forward with this channel deepening. Now, I understand what you're talking about in terms of, being from San Pedro, those slips are sentimental as well. I mean, I understand that's a problem in terms of filling those in, but we have really got to remain competitive as a port. And doing this channel deepening
Right.
is
We're on
going
the
to keep
we're-
us so.
We're on the same side on that
I
one.
mean, the big ships need to come into this port, and we
do.
can't have any more delays. So I'm writing down the things of what the Colonel's talking about in terms of if we delay this project, we're looking at 3 to 4 years delay. We're looking at a cost of $5 million to restart. We're looking at anywhere from $12 to $50 million costs in trucking this material to Arizona. I don't know. It's a difficult question, but I think really the port has a black eye in terms of our perception with the industry as it is. All our clean air stuff is pretty controversial with the industry, but we've gone ahead with that, and we've made some progress, but this should be a slam
You
dunk.
think that's jeopardized our future as a port, all of our clean air initiatives?
No, not at all.
I don't either, but
No, I think it's
there were
great.
many who said that.
But it is controversial with the industry, obviously. I mean, no other port in the world has done what we're doing. And I represent the other ports all up and down the West Coast as well. So we are the first port to go forward with this. So it is controversial in the eyes of the industry. But you understand, you said it earlier. You said it earlier. You're not against the channel deepening.
Not at all. I agree. 100%. I'm just trying to figure out if there's a way that we can have it all. That's kind of been our mantra. Your commission is actually, been your mantra. Can we have it all? Can we have good jobs? Can we have clean air? And you've said yes. And
Right.
you've said, let's not have that debate.
But we
Because
can't
we
have
can
it.
have it both. So I'm just saying on this issue, can we have it all? Mr. LaBonge, I know you want to ask
Well,
that
I know,
question.
and I don't want to cut off the commissioner.
I just wanted to say we can't have a delay, in my opinion. I mean, you understand how the work isn't at the port right now. It's not very good. And we're competing against all other ports. And we need to, get these projects done. So when the economy does turn around, we'll be sitting in a good position to acquire more work.
Absolutely.
Okay, Chris, just quick questions. What is Long Beach?
Right.
Long Beach I said Mike.
Okay.
That's fine.
I apologize. What does Long Beach have? Do they have deep water capability? Are they competitively higher than us? They do. So we absolutely need to do this to be competitive with Long Beach in the sense of that. Okay, no question about that. On the soils issue there, how much soil are you looking at? If I could, you've been to the Coliseum?
Yes.
Okay, so is that filling the Coliseum once, twice? I just want to know how much.
Yeah.
3 million. It's 87.
80,000 cubic yards of material, which is a small contaminated amount, is a football field stacked 4 stories high.
So it's almost higher than the Coliseum. Higher than the Coliseum. It's a giant mountain. It's like a little single hill on that aspect too. I wanted to ask too on this issue here. When we did Pier 400, we took that soil out of the channel and created the pier, right?
That's correct.
Is there any other use that you identified that you could use that for, that soils? And I haven't read every report.
And Pier 400.
Or anything like that? I just wanted to ask that question.
Yeah, we did. That's one of the alternatives we looked at, actually, and in one of the alternatives that was eliminated. In fact, there's an area over by Pier 300 we looked at to do that, but we got great opposition because it's an area where our lease turns feed. It's an area where there's eelgrass mitigation. So we did look at locations associated with that as well, and so we don't have any at this point.
Okay, now, I know where the Fisherman's Co-op is in my mind right now. We're talking the area south of there, out to the end of that point, in between the 25th Street yacht, little boats there. Is that where we're looking at here at the end? Is this where?
No.
Okay, because I need a little help on that.
Okay, you know Port Call?
Yes?
Directly,
On the opposite side?
directly
On the,
across
next
the
to
main
the,
channel.
where the prison is on the other side?
Down.
Down.
That's just
Where Evergreen is.
North of the prison.
Just north.
There's the prison.
North of the prison.
That's the fill site.
Can we dump this into prison? Maybe the airport would like this.
All right, last question I wanted to add, and Colonel, thank you for your service to the country and all that the Corps does in Los Angeles, especially on the LA River projects that you've been engaged with as well. On this issue here, can the project be started to still look at other alternatives? When you said truck to Arizona, I know trucks probably couldn't make it, the green trucks couldn't make it over Kellogg Hill in Pomona, much less to Arizona
That's
at
not
this
true.
time.
That's not true.
Technology.
That's not true.
All right, anyway, I'm just telling you what I know from trucks. I want that all in the future. But can we proceed, because you mentioned there's a temporary need to locate the soils, because I've been involved with some cleanups in this city with large projects that have taken time, and then all of a sudden you do it. There was 80,000 truckloads, dump trucks, of soil from a project that went out of the city to the Kern County. That's a lot of movement. Is there anything that could get us started? Because I think everybody's anxious to get us started. You're anxious to get us started. I'm anxious to get us started. People are anxious to get us started. But still gives us another option, like you have a point where we would have to come back and visit a decision that would satisfy some of the needs.
Excellent question.
So that's the Colonel.
We can't get started without a disposal area, and that disposal area would require an environmental review, none of which we have at this point. We have stopped all of our dredging activities on the federal project for lack of that disposal area.
I remember the trains that came from Utah that carried the coal that going overseas that no longer come anymore. That's a large area where Big Willie used to have his raceway. Okay? And what if you stored the soils there for a time?
Yeah.
I understand that, but it's a temporary.
We're talking
system.
80. You're talking what? You're talking 368,000 plus.
That's
80.
a large area. That's almost a football field there.
Well, there are 3 million cubic yards that remain to be dredged.
But what if you have a site for 3 million minus the 306 or the 80,000?
I think as
Can you,
an-
I think
as-
what he's asking is, can you get going with designating the site for 3 million minus 80,000?
The problem I think we have is that for the purposes of the environmental review, we have various alternatives. This proposed project is a package. And so all the different sites, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ralph, the 128, north, the 1,700,000 south, 804,000 to the sea, this is itself a package. And so if we start tinkering with we're going to take this part, make it temporary, then we're talking about it being a different project requiring a different analysis for environmental purposes that could take us months, if not years, to complete.
I got that.
It would make our master plan, the description that we would take to the Coastal Commission, not the same as our project, and therefore it would require a whole reapproval of that anyway.
I got that.
And the other issue too is you mentioned that particular place on where LAXT was. That is actually the location for a large tank farm now, the Plains American project.
Whatever.
So we
Okay.
can't.
I got
we can't
that.
jeopardize that.
You got that.
project.
Let me just ask the commission one other question. Todd Shipyard, did that do big ships too?
Yes.
That was before
No,
Joe's
that's-
time.
well, no, it's not. It's actually not.
Yeah, it
Todd
did.
You're too
Shipyard's
young.
built-
It's been longer than
Build
15
ship.
years, though. I'll
Oh,
tell you
has
that.
it?
Yeah,
When did it
yeah.
close? I thought it was 91, 92 when it
And Todd Shipyard right now is being used for.
But now, the
Now
China
China shipping.
Right, okay.
Council member, I don't believe the ships were that big back in those days. It's
Right,
been
that-
like
that-
20 years.
Okay.
But I remember when that closed, and that was the cry of everyone was bring back the shipyard, bring back those kinds of jobs. When I first ran for city council in 1993, that was one of the issues of the campaign, was bringing back Todd Shipyard.
And ship construction, Councilwoman, of that size is moved offshore or other locations in the South.
In the world. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Councilwoman, I gave you a photo just to bring home one point. World War II era photo that shows a floating dry dock at the Southwest Marine facility, similar to what we're talking about. That can be used for a shipyard at that area. If
Okay.
so chooses.
Thank you for your good answers. We've got public comment now, and we'll do the Tom LaBonge rule, which is a minute per person.
If you need more time, take it.
If you need more time, take it, but Tom and I have got to get to city council at 10. So let's call Maria Elena Durazo, T.L. Garrett, Mike Bueller, and Linda Dishman. We'll do 4 at a time.
And if you need more time, take it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Maria Elena Durazo, Secretary Treasurer of the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor, and I'm here to urge you to move this channel deepening project with the amendments, whatever is needed to move it forward. I don't have to repeat. I'm not in a position to repeat all the technical reasons, but I do know from the point of view of jobs that this is extremely important. I'm not one to support anything that's a rash movement or a not thought through proposal. And we always appear before you asking you to consider other options. However, in this case, what I have seen, heard, and read about this certainly points to it would result in a serious delay of something that's very important, not only to workers, to their jobs, and to their families, which in this economy we need so much. These are good, strong, middle-class jobs, and their families need them and depend on them. So I urge you, and I would just say, finally, this is a smart plan. It's not a rash decision. And I think, Councilwoman, what I would urge you to think about is it's not a shame. It would be more of a shame to stop a significant project that I and business people and corporate people across the county of Los Angeles have been urging to resolve as soon as possible. We're all on the same page. Let's not delay it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Good
you
morning.
guys are off a microphone, so maybe move the chairs down though. Okay.
Good morning, council members.
Still off.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is T.L. Garrett. I'm with the Pacific Merchant Shipping Association. We represent ocean carriers and terminal operators in the Port of Los Angeles. Today, we have Charles Zhao with China Shipping, Frank Prezano of TradePac, Eric Wilson of Evergreen, and Linda Frame of YTI. These are terminals that are all directly impacted by this project. This project needs to go forward without delay. The project is ready to go. It's ready to go in October and will create 1,200 jobs. It's essential to modernize these several terminals that are impacted by the project so that they are capable of receiving the newest generations of vessels that provide the economies of scale and environmental benefits. It's important to maintain this carefully crafted sediment disposal strategy. And there is no guarantee that if you alter these strategies that there will be success. with any revised strategy, and I think that's important to keep in mind. And it's necessary to position the port to maintain its competitiveness. And this is an excellent opportunity, particularly in the downturn of the economy, to prepare for the economic recovery by maximizing these terminals. So we strongly urge that you not delay this project. Thank you.
Great. My name is Linda Dishman. I'm the Executive Director of the Los Angeles Conservancy. We're here today because we care about the historic resource, which is Southwest Marine. We've been working since 2006 to try and save this complex, and we view that filling in the slips will irreparably change the dynamic for adaptive reuse at that site. It was interesting to hear kind of the struggle for clean air at the port, because I feel like we're comrades in that there are many things valued besides our historic resources, our clean air, and we would just hope that our historic resources would be considered as important as clean air. And also we feel that jobs will be there as part of the adaptive reuse. Filming is a very significant part of our industry, and it's 150 days a year they're filming there. So we would just urge you to think through all the issues, and we really appreciate you asking those questions today.
Thank you, Linda.
Good morning. Mike Buell. I'm Director of Advocacy for the Los Angeles Conservancy. I just wanted to address two quick points. The first is that the slips have been modified after the period of significance, after World War II. And as a result, it's the Conservancy's position that the port has great flexibility to modify the project to either partially fill in or otherwise alter the slips while maintaining access to the water and enabling the shipyard to continue its historic use without having adverse impacts on the historic district as a whole, because those are considered non-contributing elements to the historic district. And then in terms of timing, much has been made of timing this morning, and there's an upcoming, I believe, June 5th hearing before the Coastal Commission. It's important to note, and the Conservancy has raised this at the April 29th hearing and in other correspondence, as part of this project, there is a federal Section 106 review process that the Corps of Engineers is required to follow, which as part of that process, the Corps needs to seek concurrence from the State Office of Historic Preservation regarding the likely impacts of this project on historic resources. Now, as you've noted, the environmental review process has been ongoing here for 4 to 5 years. But it's important to note that the Section 106 consultation was just initiated formally by the Corps in March of this year. It's a 120-day process, which would go past the June 5th Coastal Commission hearing date. So I think it might be worth discussing, should the State Office of Historic Preservation not concur with the finding that there will be no impact on historic resources, what flexibility the port may have to modify this project to avoid impacts identified through the Section 106 consultation.
And what is your feeling that the State Office will probably...
Well, as yet, my understanding is that the State Office has asked questions of the Corps regarding their findings and has asked for more information, but has not yet concurred regarding the finding of no significant impact.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, Camilla Townsend, Louis Dominguez, Ben Resnick, and Joe McKenzie. Jenny, can you help me? I can't seem to figure out. Thank you. It was like I can't figure out the chairs and microphones.
Figure out the numbers.
Thank you, thank you. And we're trying to stretch the channel. We can't. Thank you, Mr. Lange.
Yes, thank you for the excellent service. And congratulations again to you on your award. I'm here representing the San Pedro Chamber of Commerce.
And why don't you identify yourself for the
Camilla Townsend, President and CEO of the San Pedro Chamber of Commerce, and also former Harbor Commissioner. I mention that because I'm sure you can understand that as I make comments today, I'm going to be looking at it a little bit more broadly. However, our board has taken a stand on this issue. First of all, we do definitely support the channel deepening project. There's no question about the benefits that will come to everybody, the communities, the nation, and everything by that project happening in terms of port development. Secondly, we also support the adaptive reuse of the former Southwest Marine Center as the proposed Gamble Maritime Center. We like this project because it's important to the community to retain the structures that are part of our history while allowing for much-needed shipyard repair and lay berthing facilities. It is critical in this economic climate to pursue diversifying, and this is the word we're looking at, diversifying business opportunities at the Port of Los Angeles. We worry about all the eggs in one basket, and now we're seeing what what happens in certain times when you do that from a business perspective. The third item, though, and however, we are concerned that this whole endeavor is much more complicated than meets the eye. And I am concerned personally that the community was never really given the full picture on what's going on with the channel deepening project and the implications for placement of the dredged material. I've learned a lot today sitting here listening to the presentation. I wish we had all learned a lot about this beforehand. And I'd like to just state that I think had there been a little more proactive approach, then we could have all been a little more educated, not on the concept of supporting the shipbuilding endeavor, but on the other project, the deep channel deepening project. My question is the same as yours, Councilman Hahn. Why can't we have both? That's the question of the day. And if anything, I'd like to recommend that maybe we take just a little more time to have some more dialogue about this. I know time is of the essence. Of course it is. So that's our point of view.
Good comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Louis Dominguez. I'm just here representing myself. I was...
and a fine self it is.
Thank you. I was at a meeting that Gamble made a presentation, and I thought their presentation was excellent. One thing they said is that they were not against the deepening. They were not against using some of the dirt there. They just wanted to keep part of the area open, and I said that's should be a workable compromise. You know, what I've listened to here today reminded me so much of listening to the LAUSD school search. You know, we can't put them anywhere else but here. I know you've dealt with that. The reason I was really interested in the beginning was that I have watched the jobs go away. Not just the jobs, but the technology. When we lost Todd Shipyard, we didn't just lose the jobs. We lost the people who knew how to build and repair the ships. We've watched that go overseas. Pretty soon we won't have anybody left in the harbor that knows how to do it. And if we do need that, we're going to have to retrain people from scratch, and that's going to be very, very difficult. You know, Todd, if you want to see what the dirt's going to look like, just look at Todd Shipyard. I drove by that today, that big pile of dirt. It's been there for a long time. I have no idea if it's going to be used for anything, but you know, if that's going to be, we're beautifying the harbor. We're trying to along our
main
side
channel,
there,
right?
and the idea of a big pile of dirt over there just doesn't do it for me. I have to disagree with one thing that was said by one of the commissioners about that when they took over 2005, nothing had happened before that. We had an awful lot happening in the 4 years before that. We saw more movement towards community action during those years, and than we've seen in many years. So you know that.
Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
I was feeling that too, but I didn't want to say it because I'm a little biased for the previous administration.
And I also like to find out if they've checked where the school district is dumping their contaminated dirt, because my backyard is where they're taking out all that dirt from Fort Mac, and it's going somewhere.
Thank you.
And the last thing, real quickly, is that you know, from a business standpoint, when someone's willing to put a lot of money into our harbor, we got to stop turning people away. You know, pretty soon people won't invest any money over here.
Thank you. Good points.
Thank
Always
you.
take the opportunity to shout out to Louis Dominguez, the man personally responsible for lighting our Vincent Thomas Bridge.
And I like to call it the St. Vincent Thomas Bridge.
I know.
Bobby De Niro did.
Over
and he-
20 years.
The councilman was
You want to
we
think
were-
deepening the
That's
channels
very nice.
is a
Thank you.
complicated project.
Good
Lighting
job.
a bridge was probably the most complicated project, had to go through every single agency, but every night it stands as a testament to you, Louis Dominguez.
It took 17 years, so when they're talking long term.
Yeah,
Good.
okay.
Good job, Louis.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Either one of you, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Joe McKenzie. I'm the current president of San Pedro Bay Historical Society. And our board is in support of the Gamble project, which would reuse Southwest Marine Shipyard and their buildings and keeping something historic in our harbor. As you know, if you drive down the Harbor Freeway, before you get to San Pedro, there's a sign that says Historic District, Harbor Historic. Well, now you take somebody on a harbor tour and you tell them, well, this is where Dead Man's Island used to be. This is where Southwest Marine is still, but or maybe where Smith Island used to be or A1 Grain used to be. The harbor right now is, historically, is you tell them where things used to be. And this is one of the last remaining shipyards, and it's important to keep this so that we can actually show somebody what it used to look like, being directly across from Portugal And also, if you have that pile of dirt there, that dirt will drift across to Port Sakal. If you've ever been to Barton Hill Elementary School, that dirt from Todd Shipyard is blown over there constantly now.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joe. Ben.
Ben Resnick, representing Gamble Industries. Let me provide solutions here.
Okay.
First of all, whatever changes may be considered can be done through an addendum to the EIR. You don't need to do a supplemental. You don't need to do a new EIR because you're looking at changes that are not going to be any more adverse, substantially adverse than what has already been analyzed. An addendum can be done in a matter of 2, 3, 4 months. You're done because it doesn't require recirculation. It simply is written up, goes back to the Harbor Commission Board for adoption, and that's all you need to do that.
And you know this because?
I know that because I'm an environmental lawyer. So I've done this. We approved a project in Hollywood of over 1 million square feet on an addendum to the CRA's EIR. There are only 2 alternatives that were considered because the third alternative is no action. One alternative is fill the slips completely.
Right.
The other alternative is no slips. I mean, do nothing.
Right.
And so I think a simple solution is maybe an alternative 1A, which where you know, am I just
Go ahead.
finished? Where look, alternative 2 has nothing in northwest slip. No one is objecting to filling the northwest slip. So that's 128,000 right there cubic yards.
Right.
So the amount the excess amount that has to go out to the ocean was 416 here. If you take off the 128,000 cubic yards that can go into northwest slip, that's only 288,000 cubic yards to go to the ocean. That's 10% of the total amount they're talking about. Here's the problem you have. The 80,000 cubic yards
Right.
is the tail wagging the dog.
Right.
What this EIR did is basically set up our criteria and said, you know what, we need a place for the 80,000 cubic yards, and this is the only place, and so therefore we're willing to give up whatever benefits are with the water slips, with the historical site. And the reason the alternative 1 is the least damaging alternative is because it's how you ask the questions. If you don't think there's a historical impact, you're going to find alternative 1 is fine. If you don't think the slips are necessary for a future use, you're going to find alternative 1 is better. And so it's how you frame the question. What the EIR fails to do is give any credence to the historical aspects, to the economic aspects of losing the water slips, to the future uses of using the water slips. And so I suggest a simple, that the port look at the combination and put some of the, save the berth at Southwest Marine. You can put some of the stuff there, but you don't have to lose your only 2 main channel water slips that are critical. And so that's my recommendation.
Thank you. Okay, very good. Mary Jo Walker, Bob Stein, Jeff Mallon, and George Lujan, and then Alex Pugh.
Call the council.
Okay, we'll be done as soon as. Okay, go ahead. Let's get going. We're out of time. Go ahead, Mary Jo. Start.
Mary Jo Walker. I'm here with the Historical Society, also a community person. I've been living in San Pedro. I'm a property owner for over 48 years. We are very much against to fill the sites with the toxic dirt right across from the Port Sakal. I mean, if everybody in San Pedro would know this, you would not be able to hold them in this room. Plus the fact, in August, it'll be 100 years since we became part of the city of Los Angeles. And I think if you go ahead with this, you'll find that we might be celebrating a wake instead of an anniversary party. We need to also have permanent jobs. They will be temporary jobs. We're not against the deepening of the channel. That's temporary jobs. But permanent jobs will be if you have a shipyard there. And plus, that shipyard's been there for almost 100 years, too.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Okay. Bob Stein, Jeff, George. Go ahead.
Good morning. I am Jeff Malian. I am the naval architect and also the engineering lead on this thing for Gamble Industries. You've heard all of the horror stories. What you haven't heard is there is an option as to how to do the structure to hold the 80,000 yards and the extra 40,000 yards that's already on the inside of the actual slips. There wasn't any reason for the Harbor Department and even to look at it because there wasn't anybody making noise. We have met with numerous engineering firms. We have found 3 of them now who are not working with the port, and so they will work with us and they each say, yes, we are able actually to engineer something which will work in only the corner. That's all that we've asked for. It is workable.
So you can take 80,000,
Actually, more than
80,000, and
150,000.
configure it in a way which takes it but doesn't fill up the slips. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Good
And
to
now
know.
the other option, which you will hear, and which they will say won't work, is the offshore disposal of the additional clean dirt. That's roughly equal with their rounding up margin. So nobody
That's-
really knows what they're looking at.
That's what I thought when I saw the numbers. Okay. Bob?
Oh, thank you. So much has been
Go
said.
ahead.
That's really, I don't want to be redundant here. A shipyard without dry docks is like somebody said a kennel without pens.
Ooh, I think I saw that.
Somebody said that. In order to have a diversified shipyard, you need to have slips for the dry docks so you can accommodate various a wide range of activities. To be successful, that's what a shipyard takes. And these slips need to be retained because they're integral with the buildings. The buildings are integral with the slips. It was a shipyard. It's designed, purpose-built to be a shipyard. And there's so many good benefits. And Mr. Malian identifies a wonderful way to contain what the port is trying to do. And I hope you consider that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
George?
Alex Pugh with the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
Our key issue is the channel deepening. We really want to see that go forward as quickly as is feasible. The key issue at the Port of Los Angeles is enabling international trade, and that's what we support here regionally. We don't have a position with regards to the Gamble Shipyard or any of the configurations of the ports. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. George?
My name is George Lujan. I'm president of Local 13 Longshoremen. I'm here simply because of one reason: jobs. This project is so vital to our industry, and I'm imploring to you to please do not do anything to derail, postpone, to the point that we possibly could lose funding. In our local, we have people that are not making their house payments at the moment. It's that vital. We are competing with sister ports, other countries, the Panama Canal. We need to keep our port as vital and as attractive to the stevedoring companies as we possibly can. I'd like to just summarize in saying jobs. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm on your side. Okay, we had John Bridwell, but you know what? I think we're out of time, and we'll enter that into the record. What I'd like to recommend, Mr. Labange, is that my recommendation would be that we send this back to the commission for clarification on two issues. One, I'd like for it to be clarified specifically that the land use designation of other does allow for a future shipyard use. I'd like that to be clarified in the document. And I would also like to ask, I would like to have wording included in this that would, that the Harbor Department would look at using the Southwest Marine Shipyard as a disposal location while still preserving the use of the slips. And maybe what I'd like before this comes to council, my recommendation would be that the Harbor Department take another look at filling these slips partially while still preserving them. We heard of another model, vertical containment, I think it is. Could the Harbor Department meet with the Gamble engineers before Tuesday when it comes to council and just take another look at that possibility? Look, nobody wants to delay this. Everybody is for deepening the channel. But again, your Harbor Commission, Geraldine and Joe's mantra is we can have it all. We can have commerce, we can have good jobs, we can have clean air. I don't know why we can't have this project going forward, fill these slips in a way that we can still preserve them, or dump the dirt in a way we can still. Can you just take one more look at that before it comes Tuesday, so that we could consider having a win-win situation here today? And that would be my recommendation.
Good. Is the commission going to meet between now and Tuesday, or is this going to take council action, then commission, and how?
It comes to council on Tuesday. The commission then has a meeting the following Thursday.
The 4th of June, and then you'll at that time hopefully make these considerations that council would act on.
But I would.
Then they would, if they act on the 4th, then they could move forward from the 4th, or would they have to come back to council?
No, we would be giving them a recommendation on how we would like them to move forward.
Right. So on the 4th, they can make an ultimate determination, then move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I second your action.
Right.
With the concept that
Yeah.
unless there's
Try.
something.
I'm saying try one more time. You got the best minds in this room. You got engineers. You got environmentalists. You got Army Corps. One more time, look at the possibility of figuring out where you dump this dirt while preserving those slips. This meeting is now adjourned.
Okay.
Did we vote on that?
Well,
Did
you
second
want to
that?
call? I did
Okay.
second it.
That'll be our recommendation to the full city council. Thank you.
I see you in council. I'll run down.
I think my phone just finally died.